Okay, I'm recording now.
All
So today we have the fabulous Paula Camarena with Pillar to Post Inspections, and she's here with us to do kind of a home inspection 101 training and to walk us through just kind of some of the best practices and processes she has, especially during this pandemic. It'll be kind of fun to talk about how she's handling the craziness. I've already seen some adorable photos of her suited up and ready to go out in the field in her new attire. So welcome, Paula.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the invite, and as soon as I can get this presentation going, that would be awesome. Let me see. Let me help you help your clients. And at the lower left-hand corner is my contact information. You can give me a call, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. So, Nick, thank you so much for having me today. And I will be going over some inspection 101 things that you should know, things that people often ask, and what it takes to be a home inspector, and things that you should be aware of with your home inspector, and questions to ask your home inspector. So let's get started. So here's the agenda. If you have any questions at any time during this recording, please feel free to ask or give me a call, like I said earlier. We're going to talk about the home inspection process, and we're going to talk about the pillar to post difference. All right. Okay, so the home inspection process. Each home inspector has their own flow of how they handle home inspections. And home inspectors work under some sort of affiliation with a large organization like ASHI. ASHI is the affiliation that I have, which is the American Society of Home Inspectors. They were actually developed to actually protect both the buyer and the seller in the transaction. They were developed in the 70s. So they're definitely here for the client. And there are certain requirements that they require us to have certifications in. So we'll go more through that. Also, what methods of training does the home inspector have completed? So the training, like ASHI, requires a certain amount of training, certain amount of hours. We do mock inspections. We actually have our inspection reports graded and sent back to us. We go through the inspection reports with instructors. We actually do ride-alongs with people who have been in the business for a while. So it's not something that you just go out and do. It is something that takes time, and it's very important that you understand the training that your home inspector has had. Okay. Things that I like to ask before I go into a home, I want to make sure that the electricity, gas, and water is on. If one of these items are not on, it's going to be very hard for us to go ahead and complete the home inspection. Most likely that will require us to come back to the property, and that is really an inconvenience for everybody. I also want to know if the home is occupied and if there is a crawl space, and also what type of roof does the house have. And the reason being is because I just want to make sure, and I usually carry my jumpsuit inside my car anyway, but I just want to make sure that I have the appropriate tools to accommodate. Why I need to know what type of roof it has? It's because I don't get on certain roofs. I do not get on tile roofs. You could break the tiles, and that can cause more problems, and you don't want to have to deal with that, right? So you don't want the home inspector to ruin things. You want them to help you find things.
So I've had inspectors get on tile roofs though, so that's interesting. That's kind of cool that you don't, because I've had people break tiles and cause huge issues.
Yeah, because what ends up happening is they'll break the tile, and then the storms we had last week, trust me, you'll find the leak.
Yeah,
that's what will happen when you break the tiles. So I do not get on tile roofs. There are other ways that we can do the roof inspection. Usually if I can do a drone, which I do have a drone, and we can look at the roof through the drone, which is probably the safest way. Crawl spaces and attics, those things are important. I want to look at the foundation, right? I want to make sure that the floor structure is sound. I also want to make sure that the wall structure, ceiling structure, and roof structure, all of these structural areas are sound when the client actually purchases the house, right? So, and I need to call things out if I see problems. sagging roofs, things like that. I've seen those before, and they have to be called out. The exterior is another place we take a look at. We want to look at all of the wall coverings, the flashings, the trim, exterior doors. Want to look at decks, the eaves, soffits, and fascias. At ground level, we try to look at them. We can see a lot more at ground level than being on top of the roof. So vegetation and grading, how the surface is draining. It's important that when you have a house, that when it does rain, that it's all draining away from the house, not towards the house. So the way that's graded is really important. You could end up with some real foundational issues if that is not taken a look at. So we look at that as well. Roofing material, right? We talked about this. The materials, what type of roof it is. It's very important that we know what type of roof it is, because it's going to require, well, they last longer. Certain roofs last longer than other roofs, right? And then it's also going to require some maintenance, right? So the one thing that I do say about roofs is if you have great big trees are really nice. Keep them trimmed and away from the roof. They actually cause you to have rodents coming onto your roof, and it also wears the roof quicker than normal. So you want to make sure that, you know, trees are lovely. We don't want to get rid of the trees, but just maintain the trees. That's really important. Roof drainage system, we kind of went over that. It needs to drain away from the home, away from the home, away from the foundation. Very important. Skylights, chimneys. Skylights tend to leak quite a bit. They will end up leaking at some point when you're in the home. It's important to keep an eye on that. So we do take a look at skylights. Okay, and then we also have to describe the method that we use to inspect the roof. That is part of the ASHI requirements. Okay. Definitely look at the plumbing, all of it, like, you know, we flush the toilets, run the faucets, blah, blah, blah. But on top of that is we want to make sure that everything is venting out correctly from a plumbing perspective. We want to make sure that the water heater and the hot water supply systems are venting correctly without, you know, causing any major issues, right? Fuel storage, things of that nature are very important. We need to describe the energy source that the water heater is using. There are water heaters out there that are electric water heaters. There's nothing wrong with an electric water heater. Electric water heaters actually last longer than a gas water heater, but we still need to notate what type of water heater that is. And we also need to notate where the main water shutoff is. That's an important component to the home inspection. And on the electrical system, the service drop. You know, like, where is the electrical coming? Is it coming from underneath the home or is it coming above? And then the entrance conductors and what type of materials those are. It could be either aluminum or copper, depending on the age of the home and how the home was built, right? We show you all the disconnects. That's really important. The main disconnects are really important, and how the service is grounded. All that, it needs to be shown and actually explained in the inspection report, which is something that we're trained on. Overcurrent and protection devices. Is there too much current going through a particular circuit breaker? So that's one thing that we want to make sure that we have a good handle on is there just enough current running through the electrical panel and the circuit breakers and not too much? And we'll kind of get into that and how we actually do that without touching the actual electrical panel, because touching the electrical panel, as we know, is not a good thing, right? And then also the ground fault circuit interrupters, GFCI interrupters, right? Those are all need to be where there is water. So if there is a sink, you need to have GFCI. So bathrooms, kitchens, garages that have sinks, they all need to have GFCIs next to them, any type of receptacle. The amperage, how big of an amperage do you have? The other day I went to a home, actually it was in the storm last Tuesday, that was, I think, pretty close to 1,700 square feet. It had 70 amps running through it. Wow. 70 amps is not a lot for a 1,700 square foot home. And I definitely did call that out because that is not a lot. For a home like that, it probably should have like 100 to 150 amps, but those are the things we kind of take a look at as well. And then also any sub panels, right? And then we also need to look at the smoke alarms and carbon monoxide detectors. So carbon monoxide detectors are now required now by the state. So I don't know if you know that, but those are required. And I doubt you'll be able to get your home closed unless you have a carbon monoxide detector. The good thing is they have plug-in ones and they're not expensive, and you can just go to Home Depot and buy one real quick. So that's not a big deal.
Yeah, the only people who are checking that are the appraisers, it seems like. And if you're all cash, it's like nobody really checks that stuff. So it's up to the buyer to know that. So that was good that you pointed that out.
Yeah, yeah. And then the branch circuit wiring in the panel does need to be, most of the time, copper. I really think that copper is the best, and that the branch circuit wiring in the electrical panels should be copper. There are some very few that I see that are aluminum, but it should be copper.
So we have a lot of houses that are older, even like my house, 1920s, and a lot of them are knob and tube still. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, so you can live in any of these types of homes like knob and tube, but you just need to understand that there will be limitations, right? 2-prong versus 3-prong in your home, right? Some appliances may or may not work really well with knob and tube. Eventually, you may want to upgrade that, but I do not say, call it out and say this is a problem, because like you were speaking, Nick, in your area, you have knob and tube, and there's a lot of historical homes in Orange that
Yeah.
are absolutely gorgeous that still have knob and tube. And there's nothing wrong with knob and tube. It's just there is going to be limitations, and you just need to be, I just let the client know that it does have knob and tube. You can live in this. It's not going to kill you, but eventually you might want to upgrade.
Got
So
it.
those are the things.
That's good.
Checking the venting systems and flues and chimneys. Those are the things that we look at as well. And then, of course, I talked about the energy source and the heating systems. So let's talk about energy sources for a minute. We talked about carbon monoxide detectors and how they're really important and how it is a requirement. However, I've been in some of these high-rise buildings, particularly in Long Beach, that don't even have gas. They are all electric. So the question is, do they require carbon monoxide detectors still? Not if the home does not have any gas. If it's all electric, it should be fine without it. But you never know. If you get a picky appraiser, he might require it anyway because it is the law. But if everything is electric, it does not make sense to have to require that. And there are buildings, condominium buildings in Long Beach that only have electric. They have
That's
no gas.
interesting.
Yeah. So just things to think about, right? Air conditioning unit, we definitely look at it, make sure that it's the right amount of tonnage for the home, the size of the home. Tonnage is very important, right? You don't want it to be under, and you don't want it to be over. You kind of want it to be right in there, depending on the size of the home. And then, we also want to look at the cooling systems and distribution systems. How is it all flowing? Is there enough air? Is there enough heat? Does it turn off and on really well? Look at the panels, make sure that they have emergency shutoffs, things of that nature. That all has to be part of it.
And again, going back to like older homes, a lot of them don't have the ventilation system installed, like the venting. So one of the things I was going to say, like, do you recommend like, say, hey, I saw enough space in the crawl space, you probably could get it in the crawl space, or do you suggest the attic, or do you kind of say like, that's not my business, I don't suggest anything?
No, I would make a recommendation. If there's a room in the attic, definitely do that, especially because it does get hot some places around here. So you do want to have some ventilation going on in your attic. An attic without ventilation could cause things like different types of growth, right? And it's really not good at all. You have to have some sort of ventilation going on. The house needs, the air needs to flow through the home somehow, some way, even in the roof areas. So that is important. I'll make a recommendation for that. And it could be figured out on how to do that. There are many ways to put ventilation in that, but I'll make a recommendation, and then again, do what you want. But I do make the recommendation, right?
Yeah.
So as far as the interiors, walls, ceilings, floors, stairways, rails, all that type of stuff. When I'm talking about walls, ceilings, and floors, it's really important. We talk about cracks, right? There's so many different types of cracks that you might see. A crack is not that big of a deal. However, if there's a crack and you can actually put a quarter in it, if you could put a quarter in a crack, you might want to kind of investigate it a little bit further. And then there's also a difference between how you see the cracks. The cracks are coming, diagonal from the, from the window corners. And then the doors are really difficult to open. Those are kind of indicators of like possibly some structural movement in the home. So you want to kind of take a look at that as well. Then of course we look at the countertops and everything, and garage doors, if they have the auto reverse, those safety issues, we want to make sure we're looking at it, right? And then of course all of the appliances, are they working correctly, and are they doing what they should be doing, right? Dishwashers, I see a lot of dishwashers that do not work or that are not working properly, meaning there's some leaks or something like that underneath the sink. We talked about insulation and ventilation. Insulation and ventilation really helps out with the cold and the heat. We look at the exhaust dryer, the closed dryer exhaust systems. And nowadays, what's happening is there's actually, and I've got a pair, there's washers and dryers that don't actually require exhaust. So for the lint, they don't actually vent out anywhere. They actually are making that the newer technology is they're making dryers that don't have to vent out anywhere. They actually are doing that internally. So that's going to be the new thing in the future. You're going to see a lot more wash dryers that do not require venting out anywhere. I have a pair that's rather new, and they vent internally. They don't vent out of the home.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you notice any issues like with maintenance or anything, or are they all good?
No, they're good. I love it. Yeah.
Oh, wow,
And
that's amazing.
yeah, this is going to be the new thing, Nick, because they've seen, like, of course, you've heard fires and things with those lints getting stuck in the tubes and and all that type of thing. So that's happened several times. And because that's happened several times, they've, technology, they've been really working on trying to get rid of those altogether. And believe it or not, it's happening. So I've got, I live in a condo, as you can tell, and I got a little stackable Milays that actually vent out inside of themselves, so that there's no venting at all. And they're really nice.
That's great.
Yeah. So more to come on that. Like fireplaces and things like that, we want to look at that. Most likely I will recommend, depending on the age of the fireplace, make sure it's cleaned, make sure you get it, cleaned, and make sure that everything is working perfectly on those, because that can be a real problem if the fireplaces are ignored. You want to get a chimney sweep. You want to make sure that it's working properly, especially in the older homes. And I know there's a lot of beautiful homes in Long Beach that have really old fireplaces. You just want to make sure, double check them, make sure that they're sound before using them, right? Or just don't use them, And some people just don't use their fireplaces. They just put a decorative something in the middle of it, and that's fine. But I'm a fireplace girl, so I will use my fireplace. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so a little bit about what we do at Pillar to Post, a difference with us. So we're the largest inspection company in North America. There's probably about 700 of us nationwide. Our training and all of the reporting are, helping you and helping our clients. And that's what we're really here for, is making sure that we're doing the best job that we can, and that we're providing you with the best service that we can. And part of that for me is really just following up with you as the agent and making sure that, making sure that if you have any questions, I answer those. And then also following up with the client after the inspection and before the inspection, because sometimes a client will go into a house and they'll say, I've always wondered about this. What do you think? So before I even actually go to the inspection, I call up the client and I say, hey, is there any questions I could answer for you now? Is there anything that you might have a question on, or that you want me to pay closest attention to? When you look at the disclosures that you're giving your clients, does that include, was there a fire in there or something? Was there a leak somewhere? Do you want me to look to that area and make sure that that's been mitigated exactly like they said it has been? Things like that. So it's really important for me to have an open dialogue with you and the client, and make sure that both of you are satisfied with the job that I'm doing, and making sure that we cover all of your concerns on both sides. So what does that mean? Protecting you, right? So I carry $1 million in E&O insurance, and not a lot of inspectors carry that amount. I think that's really important to understand when you hire a home inspector is what do they cover as far as their E&O insurance. Here in our area that we live in, a lot of homes, these homes that we are dealing with are in the $1 million range, and very, very high in the upper $500,000 range going up. And it is really important that you carry a lot of insurance. Now, I've actually considered increasing my insurance to $2 million. So because just the amount of, a roof in our area here is a lot more expensive than a roof in Montana or something like that. Like it's going to be completely different here. We live in California. This is the big ticket items here. Everything in the homes that we deal with here are big ticket items. So it's very important that you have really good insurance, and that you have enough to cover if something were to come up later, because you don't want to have that situation come up and then the client's really unhappy or what have you. We try to be perfect, but we are still human. I'm not a robot.
I think that's awesome.
So comprehensive reporting, right? So we do include this handy dandy binder here. And if you look at the lower picture, you see that on the left-hand side, the lower left-hand side of it, you'll see that my business card goes in there, and then there's a slot for your business card. So why is this important when we're giving you this binder? Well, let me tell you that this binder actually becomes your selling tool. Your client gets this binder and the report inside of it. And when they get this binder, they'll always remember who sold them their house and who did their inspection. And that's what you want, right? You want returning clients. And this is a great way for you to understand that they have your information, as well as they will follow up with you. And you could follow up with them to make sure in this binder is a seasonal checklist. So when we're talking about a seasonal checklist, you want to give a reason to call your client. Hey, you know what? Spring's coming up. There's a seasonal checklist in that binder. Did you guys take a look at that? And hey, I'd love to come by and just kind of go through it with you. And a reason to come out and see your client, a reason to come out and see how they're doing with their home. So there's really a value add for you as a realtor to keep in touch with your client by using this binder. So it's not just for me, and it's not just for my inspection report, but it's for you to continue to have dialogue with your client.
I've seen the binder and I absolutely love it. Like, I love it. I think it's awesome.
Thank you. So, and we talk about like the ASHI standards, and that is in the binder, the standards that I have to adhere to. So all of my training is based off of the ASHI standards. And so what does that mean? It really means that I am studying constantly, and just like you have your, continuous education, I have my continuous education. And my continuous education includes all of the things that you're seeing on the screen, right? I need to understand and be able to make sure that I'm able to articulate issues that are going on in the home and the condition of the home, right? And these are all the things that I have to study and that I need to understand thoroughly. So I'm constantly taking a test of some sort. Just
I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but what is the unsick house? Do you know?
The unsick house. Well, yeah. I guess, which one are you looking at?
It's on the second column on the, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Well, okay. So the unsick house would be something like mold.
Got it.
Okay. So you don't want to have mold in your home. You don't want to have, and I don't really even talk about the word when I'm in there. What I usually say growth. I see a growth, because I don't talk about it, because until we actually have it tested, it is not considered mold, because that's really me saying I'm an expert and I'm a scientist, yeah, and I'm telling you this is mold. I can't say that because I'm not a scientist. So what I recommend is let's take a swab, or I think we need to review this a little further because there's some growth going on in this area that is suspect. That's what I say. I am not going to say, and when we say unsick house, we don't want people getting sick in that home. And that's what's really important.
Love it.
Yeah. So there's a national customer service number. I have my email address, and then you can call me at any time. And most people, if they know that actually do business with me, know that I answer my phone. And if I don't answer my phone, I'll usually get back to you within 20 minutes, but most of the time I am picking up my phone. I do have a call center that picks up my phone for me if I'm at an inspection. So if it isn't me, it's somebody else picking it up. And they'll take notes or they'll schedule your inspection for you, and we'll move on from there.
So very cool.
Yeah, did you have a question, Nick?
No, keep going. Sorry.
Okay. So we offer pre-listing inspections as well as purchase home inspections, condominiums, home warranty inspections, things like that. So let's talk about a pre-listing inspections. A lot of people have a difference in opinion on that, and some people like it and some people don't like it. I've had people that have wanted a pre-listing inspection because they wanted to take care of all of any big ticket items and issues that they might have prior to listing the home.
Yeah.
They actually have had the binder at open houses, and they've had a lot of great feedback. So it's all about being full disclosure, being transparent as a real estate agent. So that's the feedback that I get with realtors who actually do pre-listing inspections, and they actually love it. And they love having the binder at their home, at their open houses, because it gives them something to talk about with somebody that walks in the door. Another reason to talk to somebody, right? What do you talk to them about? Oh, do you like the home? Blah, blah, blah. They can actually say, you know, we've actually had it inspected prior to putting it on the market, and here are our findings. And we're actually working on these repairs, or you know what, this house is actually priced knowing that these issues are here, or you know, hey, maybe they know someone that can take care of it, right? Anyway, there are many different reasons why you would do a pre-listing inspection, but I definitely recommend pre-listing inspections because I think that it's just kind of being just full disclosure.
I think it's huge. I mean, I was always a big fan of them when I was selling more. So I think that that's great. If your seller's open to it, you should definitely do that. Huge.
Yep. Yeah, especially if it's like a home that someone's lived in for a while anyway, like, you know, 20 years or 15 years or whatever, you might want to get it done anyway, just so that you know because the big ticket items are the ones that people like cringe at because they're going to cost a lot of money, right? And so you want to maintain whatever value you put on that home when you're listing it. You maintain that value by getting a pre-listing inspection and actually addressing any big ticket items. Because like I don't know, you know, a receptacle plate not being tightened, that's not a big deal. You know, air conditioning unit that's not working, that's a big deal. A roof that's tattered and that's, you know, you see shingles coming off it, that's a big deal. You know, those types of things, those are the big ticket items, and those are the ones you want to just like squish right away before you even put the house up for sale. Because as soon as you get that one offer and they start seeing all this stuff, there goes your value, there goes the price, it goes down, 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 as they try to just negotiate with you, because we got to fix this, we got to fix that. Anyway,
well, it's always terrible as a realtor to negotiate for your seller multiple offers, get 20, 30, 40, 50,000 over list price. Everybody's super excited, just to come to find out that then it's getting chipped away and beaten up during escrow because they do find $30,000 worth of issues. I've actually seen my sellers net more money when I was able to provide all these reports up front, because there was nothing for anybody to say when it came to the inspection period. Nobody could chip away at that price because I was like, no, you knew about the roof. You had to factor it into your offer. That was what we talked about. So I think it's a fantastic thing. I wish more people would do.
Yeah. So additional services, mold sampling, water testing, indoor air quality assessments, things like that. So we do want to, we can, you know, possibly look at if there's like if someone's really allergic to allergens, they have a problem with, you know, cats or dogs or whatever, and you go into that home and you think there was never a cat or a dog because it's been empty for a while. You do a particular air quality test and you could find out if there was a cat or dog, and if you have major allergens to that, you can kind of nip that in the bud before even purchasing the home. There's some of our partners here. We get a lot of discounts with these as well. Pods is one. So in the binder, you'll have some discounts like for pods. Pods is a really popular thing these days. I love them. And when you're in the middle of moving and things like that, definitely want to use the pods discount, which is part, which you get in the binder, get a discount of, I don't know, 20% or something. The residential construction remodeling estimate guides. I think you've seen this, Nick, where you could actually hand this, and this is also something that you could take, which I have a stack of. If you want me to drop them by the office, I can, but for your listing appointments and things like that, people love them. Clients love this residential construction remodeling estimate guide. And you could take it to your listing appointment and it just kind of talk through, you know, hey, if there are things that you might not find the perfect home, but if there are things that you like about the home and things you don't like, maybe you can upgrade them. And here's some, you know, numbers that you could run to see what it would really cost you to do those types of upgrades, right? Because there's never a perfect home unless you build it from ground up and you built it yourself. Like there's never a perfect, you're going to want to change something, you know?
And it's a great list to have because it really has every single little item in that pamphlet, which is what I like.
Yeah. I'll drop by some more for you guys at the office. Is the office open right now?
We are open.
Okay, cool. I'll drop some by.
Thank you.
All right. So we offer 3 different types of home inspections, and it just really depends on what the client needs. This is not about upselling or requiring you to, you know, purchase, you know, something bigger and better or what have you. The Plus package is the ASHI standards. It includes all of the major components in the home and systems in the home, which is what you want. And then the premium package includes everything that the Plus package has, but then it also includes the infrared scanning, which we'll get into more of a little later in this presentation, appliance recall check, rodent inspection, and of course you get the lifetime advisory services and customer satisfaction commitment and guarantee. And then the prestige inspection includes everything that the Plus and the premium has, but it also adds mold and ERMI testing, which is, we'll get into that a little bit later. We'll learn more about ERMI. So infrared scanning. This is obviously not me, but that camera is a camera that I have, and it's a thermal imaging camera. And it actually really is great for looking at your electrical panel to see if there's too much current running in to a particular circuit breaker. And then you could also use this, which is what I use it around the bathroom areas, because you could actually detect if there's leaks going on around the bathroom area, anywhere where the plumbing is, where we would kind of use this type of device, which is the infrared scanning. So in this particular photo, you'll see that this wire here that I'm pointing to actually was pretty tattered. You can't put your hand on the electrical panel because you'll be electrocuted, obviously. So the thermal imaging allows us to scan that area, and it's actually telling me that wire is 430 degrees. So that wire is 430 degrees. What does that mean? That means it's going to catch on fire. So you're bound to have a fire in this particular electrical panel. And that's pretty much what infrared scanning, it's an example of what infrared scanning gives you. And yeah, we do that at Pillar to Post. I do have an infrared thermal imaging camera. The recall check is actually looking for safety checks with the refrigerator, oven, stoves, dishwasher, AC furnace. You want to make sure that, you know, we include all this in the recall check. So this is great to have and as part of the premium and the prestige package. And then of course, you know, we didn't buy the house for these little guys. We kind of buy our houses for us. So we want to make sure that these little guys aren't around, right? So we do an inspection for that as well.
A good idea. Jeez.
And then lifetime maintenance advisory services. So what does that really mean? Well, you know, we've been around for over 20 years, Pillar to Post as a whole, and there's always someone to answer your questions that you might have. Even if I am not around for some reason, that's what this means. So just so that you know. And my commitment to you is really, I pick up the phone. I mean, that's really what you want when you have an inspector. Do they pick up the phone? Are they ever going to return your call? Of course, absolutely. That's what I do. So we'll talk about the Healthy Home, which is a prestige package. So Healthy Home is people who have asthma, allergies, sinus issues, chronic breathing disorders wants the Healthy Home.
So
and that's the prestige, yeah.
everybody.
ERMI, Environmental Relative Moldiness Index. So what we do is we actually take a sample of the air in the home and or actually little particles in the air, which is dust basically, and we send it off to a lab, and then it's going to give us, based off of the Environmental Relative Moldiness Index, how this home rates. Have I found issues? Yes, right here in Huntington Harbor. I had a client who actually ordered the Prestige package. He was paying $3.6 million for this house on the harbor. And believe it or not, this has had major mold issues that we could not see. It was actually behind the refrigerator. So the refrigerator water filter was leaking, drip, 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 and it created mold all up in the wall, inside the wall. No one could see it. But because they actually had this ERMI test done, we were able to detect that there was something going on in the home, and we actually were able to get somebody out there to actually look closer and find it and mitigate it. That was a huge win for us. That was good. Yeah. So people do get this, and basically the wife of the gentleman who purchased the home was extremely allergic to mold, and that was the one thing he was very, very worried about. He said, my wife is extremely allergic to mold. I want to make sure that we clear everything, and good thing we did, because we found something. And that's pretty much it for today. But are there any questions? Do you have any questions, Nick?
I think the biggest thing is this. I was going to ask you earlier, how do you go over the report with a client if they have questions, but it sounds like they can just call you and get a hold of you at any time, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, like right now with COVID-19, right, we're really not, okay, so typically in pre-COVID-19, if the client was there at the end of the inspection or during the inspection, I would, at the end of the inspection, take them for a tour and tell them what my findings are, kind of explain things to them. And again, anything can be repaired. I always say that anything can be repaired. This is nothing scary. It's just people kind of freak out when they, because it's a biggest purchase of their life most of the time. So they kind of freak out when they see these things, but it's really, just saying anything can be repaired. And I take them through and kind of explain things to them. Right. Mm-hmm. But COVID-19, let's talk about that. So right now, usually what's happening now is the realtor is letting me into the home. I inspect the home, and I go ahead and deliver the report. And then I have a conference call with the client and with the realtor, and everybody can answer. And we have a discussion just like we're having right now. And I can answer any questions that they might have. So that's how it's handled nowadays. Yeah.
So it's very, very open. There's this complete transparency, which I think is the biggest thing.
Yeah. And then I wear a mask and gloves. So when I'm in, to protect the seller, to protect me, I wear gloves, and then I wear a mask. So it's all about making sure that we're all protected. But then again, like I said, no one is there during the inspection. Nobody right now. It's for everyone's safety.
Yeah, of course. Of course. Well, gosh, thank you so much for doing this today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And let me know if you have any questions. Give me a call.
Definitely will. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.